Hello, I'm Nishit Dave, founding director of the Decode Group and a proud member of Batch 9 of the EMBA program conducted by IIT Bombay and WashU. As I approach the final month of this 18-month journey, I'm honored to share reflections on a module that has truly reshaped how I lead: Growth, Sustainability and Valuation, or I'll call it GSV, taught by Professor Anjan Thakor. At first glance, these sound like three separate topics. However, the lens from which this course has been designed connects these together. It seemed like Professor Anjan knew the gaps that needed to be plugged or interconnected in some way, and he focused his energies on those blind spots. He used workshops, case-led curriculum, and an aura of profound simplicity as against what he called vacuous simplicity. The course has truly had a deep impact on me. What makes this course stand out is its central thesis that abundant thinking, when rooted in data, structure, and purpose, creates better businesses. As someone who naturally leans towards optimism, this has resonated deeply for me. But the real shift for me was learning how to operationalize it. So GSV came in the 16th of our 18-month journey, after we had already covered various topics like finance, leadership, strategy, and valuation. Now, Professor Anjan was able to connect these dots through what we call the competing values framework, which he has designed, which talks about 4 quadrants: collaboration through yellow, creation through green, control through red, and competing through blue. So the CVS essentially is a language that helps us assess organizational culture and its alignment with strategy. So for example, we had the chance to explore this using the Facebook case, where we learned that the duality at Facebook and the paradox they embrace is truly unique. So for example, on the one hand, we learned that the hacker way works for Facebook. It shows how Zuckerberg may be described as control-oriented or red in a distinctly innovative product company. On the other hand, we were also able to appreciate why this approach cannot work in isolation, and hence why Sheryl Sandberg is the yang to Zuckerberg's yin, being distinctly green in her approach to solve a typically red process and metrics problem around stable growth. So for example, I can say things like Zuckerberg controls the product side, which is very red, but Facebook remains innovative, which is very green. Similarly, I could also say things like Sandberg is creative on the business side, which is a very green approach to make Facebook's performance more certain and predictable as it enters the public market. The immediate impact on my work is also seen in my day-to-day life. At the Decode Group, we're essentially special situations consultant. So we do turnaround, restructuring, stuff like that. When businesses fail, we try to step in and see what we can do. So essentially, the businesses are at a crossroads. So what the GSV module has done for me is 3 key things. One is it's actually enhanced our internal frameworks, which means how when we are assessing client readiness for change, we're able to do that better. Second, it gave us tools for diagnosing this failure, not just operational or financial, but also cultural. And third, it's helped with actual team design as a consulting firm. So we're able to assign roles based on CVF-aligned temperament and leadership styles. I'll give you an example in a current engagement where we have to sell a distressed company in West Bengal in India. The CVF has helped us challenge assumptions about its decline in a way that has resulted in a more cooperative stakeholder ecosystem as well. So while I'm still in the process of selling this company, I'm now able to use the CVF and other learnings to improve the outcome of this sale. For example, I've added something called how a buyer might turn this company around. Essentially, it's a playbook where I've given 3 different options based on these 3 CVF quadrants. Now what this does is that the buyers can now choose the framework that works for them, and then they're able to tailor how they value this company as per their own CVF quadrants. So for me, a major takeaway is definitely the fact that we are able to use CVF quadrants and colors to assess businesses. Now, with this particular West Bengal case, I have more quantity as well as quality in the pool of buyers interested in this company. Before this module, my conversations with potential customers and clients focused on the basics. Now I'm able to add one more critical layer, which is, was the company's growth strategy aligned with its internal culture? This one addition has actually unlocked remarkable insights for me. For example, I'm able to say things to my potential customers like, oh, in 2022, when you hired Mr. X to do activity Y, did you notice the shift from process-driven metrics to competitive behavior within the employees in your organization? Now, this is the kind of stuff that we were just not able to do, but they've hit the mark, these kinds of analysis. And so we're trying to formalize how we use CVF in our internal consulting playbooks. And so we do add this cultural assessment map in our company, and for me, it seems like a differentiated advantage. In the less than 2 months since I actually completed this course, I've been using this framework in a few aspects of my own work. 2 areas where I've seen immediate results are negotiation and team productivity. In negotiations, I now show up better prepared, not just with valuation numbers that we learned, but with a cultural lens. So silence, aggression, stalling, these are not just tactics. Now I'm able to see these as expressions of quadrant behavior similar to the CVF. This has helped me decode intent and find common ground faster. On the productivity front, the biggest lever is being able to communicate our own higher purpose, which is that we are not just rebuilding broken businesses for profit, but we're doing it as a service to the country. This has been authentic because we do see the impact of our work in local communities and on the balance sheets of public sector banks. And so, any incrementally positive outcome from us is actually a direct savings in Indian taxpayer money. So this kind of higher purpose is congruent with our leadership styles over the years and has resulted in energizing my team, more motivation, more morale, and people are taking ownership of either ideas as well as initiatives. When I thought about challenges in adopting what I learned in this course, there is something that came to mind. For example, many people are hardwired towards negativity and a scarcity first mindset. In business at a leadership level, such a mindset can actually be the kiss of death. But yet it prevails all around us. When things are not going well, we further dig deeper into this negative or scarcity first mentality. It can be a vicious spiral that can get out of control. In such a deeply entrenched environment, coming in with a positive, abundant thinking mindset, and I don't mean splurging cash by any means, is treated with skepticism at best, but ridicule at worst, and I've seen that in my day-to-day lives. I found that potential customers are dismissive of this mindset, and so abundance thinking isn't always welcomed in this particular industry at least. So when I talk about optimism and purpose, it sometimes means resistance, but this course taught me how to connect that mindset to outcomes. Abundance is not about being soft, it's about choosing growth even when things look bleak. That reframing has helped set us apart. One lesson I had to learn the hard way was that authenticity must also be perceived. Talking about purpose is risky if it seems insincere, so I've started celebrating small wins and being more visible about what we stand for in a clear and articulated manner. If I think about a broader impact in general, my team is now being trained to use CVF language in meetings. So for instance, phrases like, is this aligned with the clan quadrant? Or what's the higher ambition here? This kind of conversations are something that I've begun in my company as well, and it's led to great outcomes. Externally, clients now see us not just as a typical financial expert but now we're seen more as organizational doctors. If I think about the reflections from this course, for me the Do It Jones case felt like a mirror. It helped me accept that I operate from the yellow quadrant, collaborative, generous, sometimes misunderstood. For years I've led with abundance, but I didn't always connect it to business logic. Now I do. I also learned to be more intentional. Abundance is powerful, but only when directed. So the CVF has actually helped me stay grounded, and the higher purpose gives it a direction. We had the matter of the Taj Hotel case during the 26/11 attacks in 2008 that further reinforced this view, how culture and purpose can drive courage even under threat. As I look ahead, for me the GSV module has sharpened how I think and reshaped how I lead. I'm able to approach every turnaround, transaction or business decision with 3 additional questions. One is, which quadrant are we in? 2, what quadrant should we grow into? And 3, what's the higher purpose driving this decision? We learn that excellence is always a form of deviance, and so we must expect resistance. And finally, we learn that we must focus on abundance gaps instead of deficit gaps to obtain the heliotropic effect. The challenge that I faced was to connect this with the bottom line. So now when I marry the two, the virtuousness with the business benefit, I'm seeing better acceptance of this approach. I'm also able to make sure that I surround myself with what we call the enemy, which is that if you recognize your culture profile in a particular way, you should be able to have people around you who are of different culture profiles. In that sense, to me, that is also some form of a balance to achieve, similar to how Sandberg had with Zuckerberg. For me now, it's not just about winning, it's about why we win and who benefits. And for that, I'd like to thank Professor Anjan Thakor and to the program for giving me the frameworks, the courage, and the clarity to build not just a better business, but a better way to lead.